So let's talk about treatments. What is a treatment? Well, there's a couple different terms for it that you may hear thrown around in the industry. People call it a deck. They call it a director's vision. You hear people calling it a pitch deck or a pitch document. The common term that I hear most often is a treatment that kind of comes from the commercial world. But what is a treatment? Well, it's a PDF, or it doesn't have to be a PDF, but it usually is. It's a document. Let's just call it that. A document that has the director's vision. It's kind of the initial pitch for the film. And you can use this at different stages. Sometimes a treatment is used to pitch to a broadcaster or someone who's funding the project. When I'm working on commercials, I have to create a treatment to sell through my idea, because they usually try to choose 3 directors for the bid, and then they choose one final director who gets the commercial project. And so I have to create a treatment that explains how I'm going to shoot and make the film. What makes it unique? What makes it different? Who my characters are going to be? Kind of explains the overall idea of what the film is. And why treatments are important is it's a great document you can hand off to someone at any stage of the project until you're in the editing, because usually the project doesn't end up the way you initially pitched it, especially in documentary. But it's a way to help give a guidebook, kind of an outline of what you're trying to accomplish. So I'm going to give you guys a list of what's in a treatment, and I'm going to show you some treatments over here on my computer and kind of give you an idea of what you should include in a treatment, what you need to try to be accomplishing in a treatment. These are principles, they're not rules. You get to create your treatments the way that you want, as long as it's expressing the core idea of your film. So the most important thing with your treatment is that when someone reads it very quickly in the treatment, in the deck, they understand what you're trying to accomplish. You should be able to summarize your film. You should give its thesis or its log line in 1 sentence or less near the beginning. And so you can hear, I always put a little director statement at the beginning of my treatments. I build all my treatments in Keynote. A lot of people do them in InDesign and other programs. I just know how to work Keynote, and I find it very user-friendly, so that's where I build everything. Typically in a treatment, you want to summarize the project in 1 sentence, the idea, the zeitgeist, the essence of the project. So here, this is the actual treatment that I made for Beauty and the Battle, the piece with Deli Carr. This is the original treatment I used to sell through my idea and why I got chosen to direct it. So you can see right away in the first part of the treatment I've written here, more than simply telling a story of capturing that perfect shot, we have a chance with this documentary to tell an emotional story that shows the transformative power of passion and art. And so that was what I was kind of talking about. That was my thesis with this film, is someone overcoming their inability to create art because of their injury, and so their passion brought them through that. And so right away in the film, we see someone here in some dark light. We know that there's some brooding emotion, that there's some tension. And I go on to talk about everything in Deli's life, saying earlier this year an event happened that could have taken Deli's life. He had a severe stroke that left him immobile. So right away, we've kind of set up the whole film. This is kind of a great way to learn about editing a movie, because a treatment goes through the whole story progression of your film. But I'm getting too much into the weeds here. Let's talk about a couple more tips what you need in a treatment. So we've established we need a thesis and a log line summarizing the film. The next thing is you want to establish the main character. So right away in the first page of my treatment, I've spoken about Deli Carr. I've told who our main character is. The thing that you want to do then, and I wish I look at this treatment now, I wish I kind of would have done this earlier, is you want to include a bit about that person, what makes them unique, what makes them special. So I have a whole page here talking about Deli Carr. Here's the page here, storyline. We're talking about Deli Carr. I've established our main character. And then I go in here to explain who he is, what makes him unique, what makes him special, why he is our main character, and why we should care about him. So we have our log line and our main character. This is just like editing. You want to establish the tension in your film very early on, and you want to show the main character and who it is. Next, you kind of want to give a synopsis of the story, or you want to get into visual style. I'll talk about synopsis in a sec. I want to talk about visual style right now because I love the visual style part of treatments. I don't love creating treatments, but I really love this section. This is where you get to go online, you get to go to all your favorite movies, and you get to find all the best images, pictures, anything you want to include in your treatment. And what's great about treatments is because they're not public documents, they're just internal pitch documents. You can kind of just steal whatever you want online. Everyone uses any image because you're not using this for print, or you're not creating money income from it. You're just using it to sell through your idea. So let me show you some treatment pages from some other projects I've worked on. Like here's a Harm music video. This was the treatment that I created for that music video. And what's really cool about this treatment, what I'm proud about this treatment, is so much of the images in this document reflect what the final piece looked like. I was really able to express to the members of the band who I was doing this project for and their producers what the project was going to look like before we ever started. And that's what's great about a treatment, is if you can sell people through on your idea before you get to set, you're going to have a lot easier of a time in the edit keeping your idea the way you originally wanted it. So here I start in with a director's statement talking about what I want to accomplish. And then I go in and immediately, because this was a music video, I begin talking about the visual style. And often in my documentaries, because I do have a cinematography background, I incorporate the visual style very early on in my treatments to sell people through on my strength as a cinematographer. So you can see here in this treatment, I have lots of pictures. I'm talking about the concepts that we used mirrors in this music video. I go on here to show a camera test by our cinematographer. And then I jump right into the script, which is what I want to talk about next, your synopsis. You want to include a brief outline of the beginning, middle, and end of your film, even if you don't know what's going to happen. If it's a documentary and you're not sure what's going to happen, this is the time to write the best case scenario, because it gives you kind of a guide while you're creating the film of what to go back to. And so people can kind of expect to know what you're trying to accomplish with the film. You want to have your thesis, the log line, summarizing your film in one sentence. You want to talk about your character. You want to have your visual style explaining what you're going to do unique in this project. And then you want to also have a synopsis. And you can get into even more detail in your project. So let's go look at the treatment that I created for No Country is an Island. You can see here, here's my visual style. This is kind of what we are going for. Again, with documentaries, you don't necessarily always have as much control, where like a music video, you can really dial in your visual style. But this is kind of what I was showing the client, the broadcaster. I want to use natural light. I really want to embrace sunlight. I also want to have sequences where things are going to be very dark, like this lady on the right here, where she's lit with just a little bit of sunlight. That's kind of what we wanted to go for with some scenes with the characters from No Country is an Island. Also in your treatment, you can reference music. You can talk about what music you're going to use. This might seem kind of overwhelming right now if you've never created a treatment. If you're thinking, how do I know all this stuff? But it's good for you to start thinking about this stuff this early on, because when the project begins or you're deep into the edit, you're going to be stressed out trying to create the story and get the edit working, that you're not going to have all the energy to imagine what music you want. You're just going to be throwing in stock music, hoping it works. But this is a great chance to begin to even like the music. And you would put a link in there and it would open up the Dropbox link to the music you want, or you can put a YouTube link or whatever. Just give people an idea of what you're trying to accomplish. Also, here's another page. You can see in the script, we actually created this shot in Sri Lanka. So sometimes the images, like I was saying, that you find that you're creating for your treatment inspire things that you actually do on set. So that's a treatment. They're really important to have for bigger projects. You don't have to use them for all of them, but they will impress your client when you have lots of images in them. People feel like you have a direction for the film, which you should by the time you've created a treatment. I love them because it's kind of like my Bible for the film. I go back and I reference it and I know what we're trying to do, and everyone around me can quickly understand my vision. Because if you can get everyone on board with your vision, if you can get everyone moving in the same direction, you're going to have a much more powerful crew, and in turn, you're going to have a much more powerful film. But if people are kind of confused about what they're doing and everything is only in your head, then the film is only as strong as your execution. But when you get a treatment, it's kind of like putting your brain on paper, and it helps people know what you're trying to do, which is really, really important. And when you're sourcing your images for your treatment, there's 3 places I like to look. I like to go to Vimeo, because there's always amazing cinematographers putting their work on there, where if you kind of look through YouTube, you're looking like at cat videos and then beautiful work. But Vimeo, rather, is actually just a lot of good work, solid portfolio pieces that people are putting up there. So I use that as an inspiration, jumping board, springboard rather. Then also Google image search kind of helps, but not the best. Or I use just movies that I've seen all the time. That I go back and I'll pull images from movies like Tree of Life that I really love. And lastly, a really cool piece of software that's just come out called ShotDeck, which is this incredible library of like not every film, but many films out there, and gives you all the best images from those films. And it's free to download. Someone, a cinematographer, has created it so people can build treatments from films that they've been inspired by, films they love. So ShotDeck is a great place too for you to freely download images from movies to build your treatment, to build your mood board, your visual style, your inspiration booklet, which whatever you want to call it, your director's treatment. So I highly recommend going and checking out ShotDeck. It's really worthwhile. So let me give you guys just a quick scroll through of the treatment I actually did for Nikon, just so you can actually see what is in a treatment for a documentary project we did. And this was one of the bigger documentary projects I ever got to work on in a commercial sense. You know, we got flown around the world to I think about 10 different countries. We worked with 4 different people. It was one of the biggest campaigns I ever got to work on. So here we wanted to start off with a fencer, and we wanted to have Deli Carr's voice at the beginning, as you can see. And then we kind of get into who he was, talking a little bit about his life and his backstory. And these are the scenes you see come next in the film. So Act 1, we broke our film down into a couple acts. So our client and so myself, I knew what I was doing on set every day. We knew what we were achieving in his story, because this was a documentary story that we were partially retelling what had happened, but then also letting the actual event unfold in front of us, which was Deli taking his first photo after he came back from a stroke. This was really exciting. You can see here we even have some defocused images in the background. I did this a lot in Beauty and the Battle, used moments where we were embracing just defocused camera, because I kind of felt like that's what someone would see when they have a stroke, what they're going through. Their life is uncertain, it's blurry, it's not clear. We talk about this fencing blade sticking out. I never shot that, but we did get lots of shots of feet. In this shot, especially here with the fencer's eyes, I saw this from another film and I was inspired, and I ended up kind of doing something similar, but tried to put my own flair on it because I thought, you know, this was really cool. The fencing mask is something unique to shoot. I talk about Deli explaining that life is like a battle, and we're always in battle with something. When right now you're watching this documentary series and you're battling with your own creativity and what's next in your life. So I kind of use these big themes in the film. As he speaks, we talk about the flurry of action. You actually see this in the beginning of the film. We see a flurry of action. You see lots of shadows that we kind of used a lot of these imageries in our piece, a lot of long hallways. I was really inspired by just this breadth of work. So also too with the treatment, you can see here, I have this quote: I woke up and I couldn't feel the left side of my body. And I might have taken this from a pre-interview that I did. And you remember we talk about pre-interviews in this documentary course. It also might have just been something that I assumed Deli might say in an interview. But I'm trying to evoke the idea of what my film is going to look like. Now, for a normal documentary, you don't have to go to this extent. For commercial documentaries, you kind of have to, because the client always wants to see what's happening ahead of time. But some directors, like myself, will build out some of our film ahead of time like this so that our editor knows what we're going for. So I have a quote there. We move on here, we see these big windows, these rooms, the defocused camera, the hand. I shot all of this in our film because I wanted to make it feel like Deli Carr was trapped in his room. He would have felt trapped after he had a stroke, and he was wanting to get back to his camera. But again, the camera's defocused, it feels far away, it doesn't feel real. We go on here for the Act 2, the long way back. This is the middle section. This is now, we've established what Deli wants, which is him wanting to get back to his career, his first love, photography, and now we're going to show that journey. So we talked about the long way back, and this is where we begin to see pictures and accolades of what Deli's done. We're seeing up close pictures of the camera because we're trying to sell a camera, because this was for Nikon, the D850. We begin seeing the fencers. We're getting a bit more of the momentum building up towards the final photo shoot. And then we see the toothpicks, because Deli said one of the first tasks he had to do after his stroke was trying to pick up toothpicks. So again, I'm just accentuating the whole story here, showing these images. These are what Deli Carr's eyes might look like, and we have a shot of him holding the camera, trying to please the client. You throw a bunch of their product in your treatment, they'll be very happy. Here's a shot of a hand in darkness. Again, these are repetitive images, but I'm trying to show people the style I'm gonna do. And so Act 3 here, this is the preparation. This is just before he goes into the shoot. We talk about seeing a bit of grease, and Deli talks about his ancestral home. We have pictures here of large warehouse space. And what's great, again, about a treatment is this picture here inspired our art directors to find us this ginormous World War II airplane hangar that was abandoned in the middle of Athens. And so these pictures, again, give everyone a direction on set to know what me as the director, what I'm trying to accomplish. Moving down here, we have some pictures of the fencers facing off. We have that in our film. Fencing is like life. It's a fight, but a beautiful one. There you can already see why we called the film Beauty in the Battle, like that there is beauty discovered in the battle of life. So we talk about the fencers coming in to start their battle. There's this great sequence in the middle of Beauty in the Battle where we see our fencers arming up like gladiators going to battle. And we're almost there for Act 4. This is the shoot. This is finally Delikar getting back to his first love. And we've already seen a bunch of these images before, but we put them back in. Sometimes repeating images in a treatment is fine. We're going on here now. We're seeing some more pictures of what the fight might look like. Act 5. Oh, I forgot. I didn't realize there was 5 acts in this treatment. This is the conclusion. We see, this is actually a director I really love, Solomon Lithelm, standing out on a shoreline. This was for a music bed film, and I used a very similar picture. It was of Delikar standing over Athens at the end. That's how I kind of summarized and finished the film, him reflecting on the city he grew up in while he talks about what he just had accomplished. And then that's the end of the piece. It says thank you. So there's me going over the treatment. If you go watch the film, you'll see it looks very similar to the treatment, but again, I think it looks better than the images we found in some cases, or at least it was closer to my own personal style. It's okay to rip images like we were saying because they're springboards. They're for you to find your inspiration, and they're also great guidelines for everyone who's working with you. Even if that's just you, you can go back to the treatment and think, am I trying to shoot the film I envisioned in my mind? So again, that's treatments. It's you trying to put your brain on paper, and it's a skill that takes time. They'll get easier as they go on, but your first few treatments you make take hours, if not weeks in some cases to make, so that's okay. Just like everything, practice makes perfect, and usually practice makes things more efficient.